welcome to Tracy's Transformational Kitchen. Today we are going to show you how to make some herbal teas. This is something that if you're just starting out is helpful to have a visual understanding of how to do it. The tea that we're making today is a calcium tea designed specifically for calcium needs.
See Tracy's cookbook, page 24. For more information and recipes for calcium, go to www.calschool.com.
When using the calc tea, I like to use Tracy's recipe with the hibiscus during the summer when I can chill the tea and have a wonderful chilled punch. And in the wintertime when it gets cold outside, I like to drink a hot tea. And so instead of using the hibiscus, we switch out the hibiscus and add spearmint. So it makes for a wonderful warm tea in the wintertime. So here it goes. This is how we make it. Generally how you would measure an herb is by weight. So 1 part, the recipe calls for 1 part or 2 parts or 3 parts. A part is anything that you make it. Now if we look at this here, we haven't even made it to an ounce yet. We're lucky if we've got a ½ an ounce there. And some herbs are extremely lightweight, and I've put in a ton of herbs and it hardly moves at all. And so for a part, we are going to use a measuring cup instead of ounces, and the tea will come out a slightly different flavor because there will be different amounts, but we'll be able to measure our parts a little bit easier. So instead we'll just use a 1/3 cup, and that will make 1 part. The first herb we're going to use is horsetail. It's also known as shave grass. Now I will use the nettle. The recipe calls for comfrey leaf, and there's a big to-do about not using comfrey leaf in teas to take internally. I use comfrey leaf all the time, but for the purpose of government something or other, I think we're just going to stick with the nettle for this particular demonstration. Though if you want to use comfrey, you go right ahead. I have taken it internally and I think it's a swell herb. So here is the nettle leaf. This has a high calcium content, and that's why this is used in the calcium tea. This is the oat straw. We'll add that to the mix right here. And here is the lobelia, or lobelia. Now, the recipe that Tracy uses has hibiscus in it, and that's a dried flower. And that's what that looks like. And so we're going to add that to this version of it so you can see what it looks like all together. That looks like. We're going to stir it all together now. Okay, so this time we have the same tea base that we started out with before. Instead of adding I forgot the name of it. Instead of adding the hibiscus, we're going to add spearmint. Mix the herbs so that they're well blended. Tracy uses several ways to steep the herbs. The general rule is 1 teaspoon of herb for 1 cup of water. I am making industrial sized batches for my family. I do 8-cup bags. What I'm going to do is take an unbleached coffee filter, and I'm going to fill that with 8 teaspoons of herb. I'll show you what that looks like. Bags, they're all ready to go. We have the one with the hibiscus and the one with the spearmint. So we have 2 pots of water. Each have 8 cups of boiling water. The first pan that you see here has fridge water, and I just used the fridge water, 8 cups. We're going to boil that. This one here is distilled water. I prefer to use the distilled water. I think it makes for a better tea. When I use the fridge water, I notice a film being left on the pan, which means I know that my body is also getting a film, which it has to somehow get rid of. Because if it adds more stress to my life to use distilled water than fridge water, then it's not worth it. I'm going to go with what is the least stressful, which is often just fridge water. So over here we have our tea bags ready to close up. I'll show you how to close those up and we'll stick them into the pot. So let me show you what I'm going to do here. If I can get into the thing, I'm just going to close up my bag like that. Okay, closed up, and then I'm going to staple that shut. Do my other tea bag here. There we go. Okay, it's boiling, so I'm going to cover that over and take it off the heat. These are now ready to put away. I like to make sure that I have labeled what I've put inside so I know for later and what size of a tea bag that I made. Then if you have leftover and you don't want to put it into a tea bag, you can simply bag it up. Just make sure that when you bag it that you've labeled what you have inside so that you will know for future reference, because as much as you think you'll be able to remember, all these herbs look so much alike that once you get them in the cupboard you really might forget. At least I do. What we're going to do now is go over here and we have our mint tea and it's ready. That's the spearmint calc tea. And this one over here is the hibiscus calc tea. What I'm going to do for this is take out the tea bag, squish it, let all the water come out. I'd squish it better than that, but I'm holding the camera, so that's as squished as it's going to get today. If it's cooled off enough, you can also squish it out with your hand to get as many of the good herb juices out of that as you can. Okay, that looks really gross, but I just wanted to show you. Those are my tea bags that I'm going to take out to the compost. This particular pan of the spearmint calcium tea is a ½ gallon. I'm going to add 1/3 cup of honey to that. When you're starting out, just barely introducing teas to children, it helps to sweeten them. So if your child says, "Oh, this is yucky," just try adding a little bit more sweetener to it, and as they start to develop a taste for the tea, they will get to the point where you can start slowly taking out some of that honey so it's not as sweet. But it definitely helps, because you have to think about it, kids are used to drinking Kool-Aid, and if you're just starting to transition, it's such a new flavor to have tea. It's such a different thing. So that's why you would use more honey. The calcium tea with hibiscus, we're going to use agave, and that will just give it a little bit of a different flavor. So there you have it. The warm mint calcium tea and the chilled hibiscus calcium tea. And this is one that we like to serve in a nice glass for Sunday dinner. And that makes for a fun Sunday special drink.